What is going on, guys? Today we're going to be talking about Resident Evil 7, and I'm going to be talking about multiple things about this game, and hopefully we can make a context of everything of what I'm really truly trying to talk about this game in particular. And, its horror elements, its gameplay elements, its overall vague and ill-defined setting of what Resident Evil 7 does. So, this is going to be a little bit of a long video, and I was not planning on having this video this long, but this is a little bit it's really not much of a retrospective, I guess. It's more of an overview. It's more like an impressions overall as well, and what I truly think what makes Resident Evil 7 a very good FPS in its own unique way, and having the story and gameplay elements integrated within the game itself. And I think that's what makes Resident Evil 7 different from that of its past predecessors in the formula of the Resident Evil series. Now, with all the Resident Evil games that we've had in the previous past, they were all, obviously, some were action-oriented, more action-oriented than, and less horror, much like Resident Evil 4 or Resident Evil 8 Village. But overall, 5 was like that, though, too. And 6 was more action and less horror as well. But overall, I think the majority of the horror element, as it were, when it comes to these types of games, were more appropriate towards the originals back on the PS1 era. And then we've had Resident Evil 7 here, as I'm previously talking about, and other games in particular that do have the horror element, but do have some more action to it as well. So, like I said, please bear in mind of the context of what I'm really trying to talk about here, because, like I said, this is one of my longest videos I'm making, and I wasn't hoping to do it this way, but I'm doing as much as I can possible to be very, not just knowledgeable of this game, is it's kind of mediocre, but I'm doing my best here. So, anyways, let's get into the whole entire context of this game. And the first thing I will talk about Resident Evil 7, when I first played it, it scared the shit out of me. Okay? I love video games, obviously, but I love scary games in particular. And the reason why I love scary games in particular is because they always give you that horror element of surprise. It always gives you a way of being that immersive in a world, much like Resident Evil 7, of course, to where it's always going to give you jump scares no matter where you go, or you're always going to be very suspenseful or mindful wherever you're going to be going throughout the world of this game. Particularly in Louisiana. I think Resident Evil 7 did a really good job with that type of setting, and it's the reason why you're in the Baker family household, and that's what makes it even more creepy, is because I think what Resident Evil 7 does differently from what Resident Evil 8 Village did is that, like I previously mentioned in the video that I made for that game, is the fact that Resident Evil 8 Village reminds me so much more of Resident Evil 4 in terms of the more action formula and less horror. And I'm not saying that Village didn't have any horror elements to it. It did, but they were not as jump scary or very suspenseful like as to what Resident Evil 7 did. And I think that's what makes Resident Evil 7 stand apart from Village. And that's the way how I feel about it, really. So, anyways, I think what made Resident Evil 7 even more unique, not just from Village for me, I think it has to do with what this game entails, and it's the shooting mechanics, and that's one thing I will break down here a little bit. The shooting mechanics in Resident Evil 7, they are a little bit janky. I do agree to where it's not the way... I don't think that's what they wanted Resident Evil 7 to do in terms of the shooting mechanics. I think it was supposed to be a little bit janky because it's more of the survival of the fittest formula to that of what Resident Evil games have always been tried to do, I think. I mean, don't chastise me either way. I don't care. But, I mean, shooting has always been the mechanic or the staple of all Resident Evil games. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have to shoot everything in sight in Resident Evil 7, but I feel like it's more of it's a self-defense thing, really, because you want to be careful what you're doing. But overall, I think the gunplay mechanics in Resident Evil 7, like I previously mentioned, yes, it feels a little janky, but I understand why the jankiness of the game, of the gunplay itself, and it's understandable. So now what I will talk about here is the lighting. I really do like the way how the lighting is in Resident Evil 7. I think the lighting in Resident Evil 7 was very dark. It's very gothic in a sort of way. It's scary, and hence the reason why, because it has that horror element to it. Because, I mean, you have some Resident Evil games that do have that horror element to it, and it gives you a sense of mystery. It gives you a sense of knowing what's going to be coming around the corner of where your character is going to be in any kind of Resident Evil game, and I think Resident Evil 7 does that perfectly. I think it really takes a bit of the vibe of, like the stealth mechanics in a matter of speaking to what it's like in Alien Isolation, which I played little of, but I do plan on playing that game again at some point. But all the more reason why I'm doing this video is because I thought I'd put a little bit of that comparison in. When I purely think about what Resident Evil 7 does, it's something that it's more atmospheric to its lighting. It's dark lit corridors. It's and it's about the setting though too. I think that's what really makes Resident Evil 7 even more eerie. It makes it more scary to a certain extent, to where it gives you a calm certainty to know that you're in a place to where it's dank, it's dark, it's gothic, as I previously mentioned, and it's just something that really makes Resident Evil 7 different from what Resident Evil 8 Village does. And I'm not saying that Resident Evil 8 doesn't have that horror element to it. It does. But what makes Village stand out from 7 is the fact that it's more focused on gameplay than anything else. But overall, it still did a good job in its horror element mechanics and how it thrives throughout the rest of the main story, and how it just shows in certain aspects of the world of the game, and how it shows, maybe somewhat telling you a little bit of a dark story behind it. I don't know, but that's just me. Now, going through, like I said, this is a little bit of an overview and somewhat impressions video, but I'm doing as much as I can to really trying to withstand this length of this video, because, like I said, this is something I've never been able to do in quite a while by making a video this long. I feel like that maybe at some point I might have to cut this down. I don't know. We'll see. But like I said, I am doing as much as I can to obtain or really put things in the matter of context of what I'm really trying to do here. So, okay. Now, for what I understand, Resident Evil 7, it did have a little bit of a controversial thing. What I will mention is the fact that when you get the knife from the deputy or the police officer in the beginning of the game, his head actually ends up getting partially chopped off by a shovel. And so what I understand with that type of controversial thing is the fact that, it actually ended up being edited out in another country because it was either, I think it was banned if I stand correct. So I thought I'd put a little bit of knowledge out there for you for that matter as well. And the reason why I'm doing these types of pauses in a way, because I'm literally trying to find words to what I'm truly trying to focus on while making this video. The puzzles. I will mention about the puzzles. I think the puzzles in Resident Evil 7 really are really good. I do like the way how you have to go on a little bit of a fetch quest in order to obtain a certain type of key in order to go through a specific type of door. You have the snake key, you have the scorpion key, and you have the crow key. Each of these keys will give you not limited, but unlimited access to these specific places that have these symbols on these doors. And, if you want to use the snake key, you have to use the snake key on snake doors. If you have to use the crow key, you have to use it on crow key doors. It's the same thing as with the scorpion. So you get where I'm going with this. So now the story. I will talk a little bit about the story, however, and I think what really makes the story even more cool at the same time is the fact that I really like how it just plays. How it really intertwines along with what happened to the Baker family and how it's connected to the ship very close to the ending of the game, I might add. And Eve is a megamycete or whatever it's called, sentient creature that actually enabled the Baker family to basically they were alive and well before that all happened, and then now they're all dead. But the reason why the Baker family came back is because they are part of that sentient creature, the megamycete or the whatever it's called, and hence the reason why the story, how it just flows on, and how it structurally just makes it more sense towards the ending. And like I said, once I finish this game, I'm just like, holy shit. This game is actually amazing. I actually freaking loved Resident Evil 7. I think I'm so used to playing first-person shooters, so I think hence the reason why I like Resident Evil 7 so much is because it does retain a little bit of the FPS formula to it in a certain way, but not like Call of Duty or like Titanfall or Wolfenstein or Doom. But it does retain a little bit of that FPS formula in a way because you're using specific weapons to go up against the Baker family, like Lucas Baker, the father Baker, or Marguerite Baker, And so it's just like, it's very interesting of what these characters do within this game and how you have to basically, you have to be a little tactical. For another thing that I will mention as well for Resident Evil 7, it just shows you that you have to know what you're going to be doing, and it's all about inventory management as well. And that's one thing I will mention for Resident Evil 7 as well, is that the inventory management is real. You have to be careful what you're going to be putting into your inventory, whether if it's like health, medicinal, herbs, or like weapons per se, whatever weapons you want to use specifically in a matter of some types of boss battles or any other type of enemies that you'll be coming across. And so it is a little bit of a clusterfuck, But overall, you will start to get used to it. But overall, like I said, it still has that type of jankiness to it. But there's a reason why there's jankiness to it. And I recently mentioned that about the inventory management recently too as well. So just bear that in mind. Now, I guess pretty much I love the sound of this game. I really love the way how the sound just gives you it gives you the creepy vibes. It gives you the way of, you know, being careful where you're going, and I love that. I really love that in video games like this specifically. You know, there are other games I have played in the past, you know, like Soma, Alien Isolation, Amnesia: The Dark Descent, which is another amazing game I might add as well. And it just goes to show you that, you know, when it comes to not just stealth games in particular, but when it comes to scary games, sound is also another key factor. And when it comes to the sound, there comes the music. You know, you have the music and sound that are combined, and it keeps you on edge. It just keeps you going and going and going and going and wanting more. And that's what's even more exciting about these types of genres. And I think that's the more. I think it's a good quality and important mechanic when in these types of games. It's fantastic. I have so much fun with these games. It's unbelievable. So what I will say, I think Resident Evil 7 just did an amazing job overall of what it wanted to do and how it achieved it. And I think what I can say right now is that I give Resident Evil 7 a 10 out of 10. No doubt. No doubt. It's the reason, it's no wonder why this game got what was so loved, is because a lot of fans that, even me, love these types of games. They love that scare factor. They love that, like I said, they love that mystery. They love the way how it plays. They just like the way how this whole entire game plays out, and how it just fits into the Resident Evil franchise, or even in this new franchise in particular, for Resident Evil 7, 8, and venturing forward to the DLC for Village, which is the Winter's DLC. So that's going to be cool though too. I'm kind of curious of what they're going to do with that DLC. I recently mentioned something about that in my Resident Evil 8 Village video that I previously made, and I'm very excited about what that's going to be doing as well too. So like I said, it's something that I'm really looking forward to. The DLC for Resident Evil 8 Village comes out the 27th of this month. I probably won't be picking it up right away, but I will be picking it up at some point. I will be making a video on that when that time comes. So bear in mind, by all means, play this game. Like I said, it's a 10 out of 10 for me, and I really hope that a lot of people played this new series that we have now. And so, like I said, it's strongly recommended. 2 thumbs up. But yeah, I'm gonna have to cut this video short because I can't do it. So, but anyways, this is Nameless X here. Really appreciate it. But stay tuned for more future videos like this. Please leave a like, comment, question you might have. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I've been more than happy to talk about more future games like this one, and for more future content here at Nameless X Unknown Player on YouTube. I am out. Have a good rest of your day. Have a good upcoming weekend. And peace.